Evening, folks. Just like normal times, we're going to wait about 5 minutes while everybody logs in. So give us just a few minutes. Hey, everybody. As folks are logging on, you can begin asking questions. We will start at 5 minutes after the hour. We've got some folks dialing in. We're going to get started at about 5 minutes after the hour. Thanks for joining us. Hey, folks, we still have people joining. We're going to try to get going in about 5 minutes after. So thanks for joining us tonight. Go grab a drink or Dr. Pepper or a Coke or something, and we'll be there shortly. Lots of dinging and bonging going on, and I'm sure you can hear that. I've got about 8:03 Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to get going here in another minute or so. Okay, Deb, you can bring down the slide, and let's go ahead and get rolling. Hi, everybody. If this is your first time, my name is John Humphrey. I'm the chairman of the Tort Claimants Committee in the bankruptcy of the Boy Scouts with my good friend Doug Kennedy. Say hi, Doug.
Evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well out there.
We have a lot to cover tonight, folks. You know, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and so we're going to cover three topics. First of all, if you're seeing this for the first time, welcome. We're not here to provide legal advice. We're just a group that's trying to represent survivors, and our attorneys might say some legal things, but Doug and I are your advocates. We have been working on the TCC since appointed by the U.S. trustee for, almost 21 months now. And we're going to cover some updates on youth protection. Doug's going to take us through sort of comparing and contrasting not only what is in the coalition's plan, but what they've been talking about lately that isn't in the plan. And we promised you that we were going to talk about local council contribution. And Jim and John Lucas are going to go through a couple of dashboards and give you some examples. We hired a forensic accounting firm, Berkeley Research Group, and they have been working diligently creating these dashboards for each local council. So you will see firsthand what people are contributing. We think there's a substantial amount of money more to be had there. And then we're going to have a short little slideshow on how to vote. We've had some people that are confused. What are the things I have to check? What if I want the expedited payment? Do I have to vote yes or no? And then what is the opting out of the releases mean? And then I'm going to summarize at the end and kind of tell you what we're looking for, and we'll go from there. So with that, Doug, I'd like to pass it over to you.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. I just want to kind of close the loop a little bit on something we talked about last week. If you did not see last week's town hall, we really encourage you to watch. All of the town halls are up on our website, tccbsa.com. And last week, we had the former director of youth protection for the Boy Scouts, Michael Johnson, join us. And at that time, he said that he did not believe that the Boy Scouts were safe. And based upon claims from the last 5 years alone and the fact that abuse hasn't been eliminated, the TCC agrees. And from its first day, the TCC has been really dedicated to two things. One, the elimination of all abuse, and two, getting the maximum settlement from everyone, for everyone. And we've been laser focused on that. And there's been a lot of talk just about the money, but the TCC is focused on this issue of youth protection. So last week, the Boy Scouts and the Coalition, this is their plan. We're flattered, by the way, because apparently they watched our town hall meeting last week. And if they're watching tonight, greetings, everyone. So they decided, well, you know what, we're going to form a group, a working group, to get together and talk about, what's going on in preparation for the settlement. And let me first say to any survivor that wants to be involved with discussing with the Boy Scouts their abuse and what happened and how to eliminate it, my hat's off to you. Absolutely. That's just a fantastic thing. And as a matter of fact, I got 2 phone calls today from survivors that said, I've gotten a call and they've asked me to be involved. And my response was, fantastic, go for it. And I'm here to tell you, anyone who's going to be part of the Boy Scouts and Coalition Working Group, if you want to meet with the TCC, we get together every Sunday night, and we'll be happy to sit down with you and give you our feelings as well. But as I started to look and think about what they're trying to do to say, oh, we really are paying attention to this, I was really reminded of what's been happening in my town. We've had a lot of development go on. And when this development occurs, the developers come into town, they have these big plans, and it always involves tearing down every tree in sight and taking away our open space. And all the people rise up and say, no, you can't do this. And then they sit back and say, well, we're going to make changes and we're going to listen to you. And here's all these little things we're going to do. And the city gives them a permit to do it. But then at the end of the day, these things are built. We're sorry that they're built, and we're left holding the bag on them. So what we want to do tonight is, and I'm just going to take a few minutes to do this. This will be up on our website. Again, this is recorded. We really want to just very briefly cover the bag that we're going to be holding on this plan as it relates to youth protection. So we've got a few slides. Deb, if you put the first slide up. This is the awkward pause while we wait for slide number 1 to come up. There we are. Thanks, Deb. So on the left, basically, we just have, on the left, we have the existing plan. This is the plan that we're all voting on. And on the right is what our demands are. So, you know, the Boy Scouts are putting together this committee that's made up, guaranteed to be made up of members and survivors only. And we're saying from the get-go, right now, there needs to be experts involved in this process. The Boy Scouts want their committee to be in place for 3 years. We want an independent body that is going to be part of the Boy Scout bylaws that does not have an end date. We don't think that the abuse is magically going to go away in a few years and stay gone forever. Also, the Boy Scouts wants to select, in consultation with a committee, the independent organization that's going to evaluate it. We want the committee to select this, not the Boy Scouts select their own person to evaluate themselves. Next page. This, throughout the document, the plan that we're voting on, it says things like may include, will consider. And what the TCC is saying, that any recommendations must be made public. And anything that the Boy Scouts does as in the way of changes will be reported, as well as the ones they don't enact and the reasons why not. Also, all abuse statistics. We're not talking about may consider their measurement and how they're going to be reported. We want all abuse statistics measured, we want them validated, and we want them communicated not only nationally, but at the council level, down to the council board members and volunteers. So there's complete transparency. And you may have also heard that, you know, this is a big announcement that the Boy Scouts agreed to 1 survivor board member in a room of 40 board members. That's not good enough, gang. Come on now. We need at least 10% and half of those not current Boy Scout professionals or volunteers. And our last slide. And then lastly, when we start to look at this, there's no mention in the current plan about reporting occurring anything after 3 years. We want it to occur immediately, 3 years for 6 months, and then annually after that. As well, we want the annual reports of all abuse so that the public knows how the Boy Scouts are performing. We want them to be part of its report to Congress. The Boy Scouts tells us all the time that they have a federal charter. They're the only chartered organization to be providing scouting, and this is a real big deal. Well, you know what? We think that our own government has the right to understand how well this chartered organization, the charter they provide, how well that organization is protecting our youth. We also want, and we've demanded this all along, there be a survivor committee member represented at the trust meetings. This is a trust that is going to be handing out and making our awards, not at the discretion of the trustee. We want to know that one of our own, a survivor, is at the table. And lastly, when it comes to the IV files, we don't want the Boy Scouts, again, this is what it says in the plan, to consider protocols. We want those files turned over. We want there to be proof that they were all turned over, and we want a third party to evaluate what they are so that they can be made public. Thanks, Deb. So let me just finish for St. John. So I know we kind of roared through that a little bit, but we wanted everybody to understand the plan that we're voting on not only includes the monetary issues, but also includes these non-monetary. And this is our one shot, because I don't want to be left holding the bag, and John doesn't want to be. And every single survivor that has emailed us, almost to a person, has said, I want the abuse to stop. This is our single chance to make sure that the settlement says these things must happen. So let's not fall for the window dressing on this. And then the day after we have a settlement, we're left there standing and saying, you know what, nothing's going to change.
Obviously, you guys know that we feel really strongly about this, and we should, because of the 82,500 rough claims, 18,000 of those claims came in after youth protection was in place. And so I think the Boy Scouts is going to have a really hard time getting up in front of the press and in front of Congress and say, no, we don't really want oversight by an independent body. And so we're standing on that one, and we think we can get that for you guys, because it's come through loud and clear, no more abuse. So thanks, Doug, for that. As we migrate now from the non-monetary to the monetary, I'd like to turn it over to Jim Stang, our lead counsel, and John Lucas, a partner at Pacholsky, Stang, Zeal, and Jones.
Good evening, folks. I want to just tell those on the webinar tonight that John and I and Steve, all of the Pacholsky folks, consider it a real honor to be able to speak with you directly like this. There are so many people that have claims in the case that oftentimes folks feel like it's difficult to engage. We try very hard to make these town halls understandable, that we're not lecturing to you, and that we answer your questions. Last week, and I think in the day or two after, literally, I think over 500 Q&A questions were answered. We don't cut you off. We answer your questions. That's what we're here to do. And it's our job to do it, but it's a job that we're honored to do. So just a little break for a moment before we get to the financial stuff. So we have been telling you for some time that the committee did an in-depth analysis of every single local council. And so tonight we are going to present you with, we call them dashboards. They're really just financial summaries of 2 local councils. Why just 2? We're going through a very litigious period in this case. Document production requests are flying through the air, deposition notices are being issued, and we want to make sure that the information that we are giving you is the information we're going to rely on when we go to court to oppose this plan. And so this is very complex, as you can imagine. There are 253 of these entities, and while they are similar in some ways, they're not identical. And we want to make sure that the information we post on our website is absolutely accurate. And so the 2 that we're showing you tonight are as close to final as final can be. And they were close enough that we felt we could publicize them and show you what we've done. But over the next, I hope it's a short period of time, we will be rolling out on the website, and we will tell you at every weekly town hall how many more there are that you can access. But tonight is really to demonstrate to you, if you're not from these 2 councils, what you can expect to get from us. And I sincerely apologize that I can't post 253 of these tonight, but you're going to see the themes that these 2 represent, which is the local councils should be paying a lot more than the local councils are paying. So we appreciate your patience. We want to get it right, and we want you to vote on reliable information. So, John, unless you have anything to add, I'd ask you to put up the first dashboard. Okay. So the look is identical across every local council. And so you've got the local council number. Some of you might know the number. You've got the name as it exists today. If you go down the left-hand side, you'll see that this local council is the result of several other councils. So you had the Coastal Empire, you had the, I'm going to probably mispronounce this, the Okefenokee Area Council, you had the Coastal Georgia Council, which has now been rolled up into the Georgia Council. I'm sorry, the Coastal Georgia Council. We asked on your proof of claim to identify your local council. Some of you might have put down the Okefenokee one. We know, which one you belong in, but we again implore people, please go back to your claim form. If you did not put down your local council, put it down. There's a lot of missing data from the analysis, and knowing the local council will help us present the best case for the maximum contribution from the local councils. So there are...
Hey, Jim, I just wanted to say one thing, because this has been come up in prior town halls. If you don't know your local counsel, you don't know. Okay. But if you can get at the information, that's what Jim is saying, is that then, it's worth it to amend your claim to have that on there. But if you don't know, you don't know.
And there is an interactive map on the BSA website of your local councils. Maybe we should put a link up, John, to our TCC website so people can access it. If you don't know the historical name, but gee, that was the community I lived in, and today it says Coastal Georgia, put down Coastal Georgia. If you don't remember the one from 40 years ago, we know the genealogy, if you will, the family tree of these councils, and we can kind of back it out if we need to. So Coastal Georgia has 108 filed proofs of claim that identified Coastal Georgia as the local council. Could be more, but there are 108. This is from BSA. This is BSA data. We didn't make this up. The estimated value of the survivor claims is $26.5 million and change. Where did we get this number? We got it from the TDPs that the Boy Scouts, the coalition, and we support, at least in terms of the valuation aspect of it. So we took the base amount for each tiered claim. We'll go into a little more detail on this in a few minutes. We discounted it by the statute of limitations discount that everyone agreed to. And we came up with a total value of the 108 claims of $26.5 million. How much do we think Coastal Georgia should contribute for the relief it wants, which is a walk away from these 108 claims and all the others, by the way, that haven't been identified? We think Coastal Georgia can afford to put in approximately $9.4 million. How much are they actually contributing per the plan? Go diagonally down, $2.5 million. This is 9.4 is what we believe they can contribute and remain financially sound. This is not a liquidation of the local council. This is not a termination of the Boy Scouts for the Coastal Georgia local council. They're contributing 2.5, approximately 2.6. We think they can afford 9.4. Well, are we getting a bunch of camps that no one wants to buy? No. We believe, again, them remaining financially viable, they can put in $8.5 million in cash and investments and $873,000 worth of real estate. How many scouts are there? Approximately 2,500. They have today in cash and investments $3,913 per scout. They are spending $308 per scout. And you notice we put 2019 in there because we want to be straight with you folks. We know that the spending numbers are all skewed because of COVID. We went back and looked at their expenses pre-COVID because we wanted to portray accurately what this local council can or can't do. And then finally, it has 4 owned properties. Now you will see in some of these dashboards that there, or for example, I'm not sure this is true, but let's say, hey, Jim, Coastal Georgia has 8 properties. You only put down 4. 4 are owned. A lot of these camps and properties are leased. We didn't count those. They can keep them. But when we look at how much they can afford, we looked at the owned properties. So the next box is a kind of a recap of an asset summary. Book value is what we got off the financial statements that were supplied to us. This is not our making a made up number. This came from the financial records of the Boy Scouts and the local councils. They show on a book value $17.4 million. Now, book value is a strange thing, especially when you're talking about real estate. It's not the value of the real estate. It's what they valued it when they acquired it. It's not the same as what it's worth today.
Yeah.
So
and
yes, John.
I was just saying a lot of times about the book value and the values that are on sort of the books for a nonprofit like this, they're not really updated by sort of the tax registries and the tax rolls and the counties that they sit in because the nonprofits aren't taxed. And so, that's why we went out and we appraised all these properties to arrive at the true value.
So let's just look cash, you see, we have this thing called estimated asset value low, estimated asset value high. This is really reflecting appraisal ranges. You'll see in a moment. We wanted to show you a low end scenario and a high end scenario. So the cash is obviously the same all the way across. The investments are all the same all the way across. Jim, why did you gray out those two things? Well, we are showing you the market, what we believe the market value to be. And dealing with book value less depreciation, it doesn't really matter. What is it worth today? That's why those are grayed out. We thought those were irrelevant fields. The range of value is between $4.8 million and 5.5. Obviously, I'm rounding a little bit. The total assets are, in our opinion, low value, 14.7 million, high value, 15.3. You know, coastal Georgia owes some people money besides the abuse survivors. We took that out, and those are the net numbers. To the right, you're showing membership trend. And obviously 2020 dropped off because of COVID. But you can see what's going on here is a trend. The trend is down. And the Boy Scouts project that it'll be 5 years before they get to their pre-COVID numbers. So when they talk about how much money they need, think about that. 5 years before they reach pre-COVID. Owned real estate, this red and green, the owned, that 5.5 you see, that means the value is in a range of $5 to $5 million. The other 0.0, it's not that it's worth nothing. It's just that the software doesn't put in a number less than $1 million. It defaults to 0. We'll get to the values in a moment. And then you've got the operating results, and you'll see they're in the red. Why are they in the red? You'll see in a few minutes. They haven't been cutting their expenses commensurate with their membership reductions, especially in the payroll area, So, John, we can go to the next one. So this is our recap of the value of the categorization of the claims and the valuation. So as I said before, there are 108 claims. These are the different levels. You're sadly familiar with our matrix. This again is coming straight from BSA. This is not us. This is BSA information. Percentage of the claims is just math. Value, again, coming from the TDPs. Now there's a long note here. It's actually worth reading, unlike most notes, because if you might remember in the statute of limitations, Georgia is not an open state. There's a range on the statute of limitations. The discount is between X and Y. We took the median. We didn't give you the worst case. We didn't give you the best case on the discount. We chose the middle. That's what we try to do. We try to give you fair, accurate information. So this is just showing you, again, sadly, almost 58% of the claims were for oral sex or penetration. John, next slide. Okay, these are membership trends. We always think this green one is really, really important. Cub Scouts, the feeder to the Boy Scouts. And obviously, there's COVID here. But again, look at the general trend. Look at the general trend. It's flat or downward. And then we just recap it by category. For those of you like me who are slightly colorblind, you can see the numbers. But this is really just representative. The graphs are representative of what's in the numbers. John? We call this a hockey stick, folks. Look what happens to their cash and investments per scout. Look how it went up. That reflects, obviously, there's some increase in their cash and investments. You can see that in that middle column. Those are just gross numbers. It went down, just slowly it's come back up. This is about really the fact that their scout population's down. That's why it goes up like this. And I want to reiterate, 5 years for them to get back to their pre-COVID numbers. Their estimate, not ours, their estimate. So when you look at what they can afford, You got to keep that 5-year window in mind. Okay, John, next. This is showing you, in effect, green, revenue is down, payroll and benefits is up. If your revenue is down, you should be thinking about cutting some of your paid executives. That's not what's going on here. Now, again, this is per scout. But apparently no one is nimble enough to adjust their payroll to a declining scout membership. The graph to the right shows you payroll and benefits compared to other expenses. You can see how loaded the payroll is. And then again, the chart below is just the numbers, not just the numbers that support just the graphs. So you can just follow through and see the years. You can see scouts, revenue, spending, payroll as an expense, as a part of spending, and then payroll and benefits as compared to other expenses. John? How did we decide that they can afford $8.5 million? This is a really important slide, folks. I'm going to walk you through it. This is critical because this is how we came to our conclusion that they're not paying enough. Okay, remember, we're taking their 2019 membership, pre-COVID. They had 4,935 scouts, their number, not ours. This is their payroll expense. These are their other expenses. This is their total. Per scout, pre-COVID, $308. That's how much they were spending per scout. So we took the December 2020 youth membership. That's how much they have today. We adjusted it per their business plan. Their number, folks, not ours. We weren't projecting 12.5% reduction. They were projecting 12.5% reduction. So their December 2021 numbers for membership, we don't have those numbers in yet, but we used their business plan and their actual numbers, and we concluded that in December 2021, they will have 2,221 scouts. Okay, what do you do with that? Well, we went back and we looked at what we thought the spending should be per scout. Remember, they were doing $308, right? We bumped it up, a little inflation, little cost of living changes to $317. They were spending $308, we're projecting $317. We thought to ourselves, we can't take all their money. This is about, whether you like it or not, the reorganization contemplates that the Boy Scouts would remain in existence and function as a youth organization. So we said, okay, let's assume they get no contributions from anyone for 2 years. Let's assume they get no membership money for 2 years. Now, we all know they are going to get donations. They are going to get membership money. But we wanted to really be conservative when we said this is what you can afford. So we took 2 years per scout, $635, 317 times 2 is 635. We multiplied it times the number of scouts. Again, this is now a 2-year number. For the next 2 years, using our adjusted spending per scout, we said, let's leave them $1.4 million in cash, because that's what they would need to be viable. And then they'd start getting the donations, they'd start getting the membership. We all know, of course, they're getting that anyway during the 2 years, but we just assumed they weren't. So we took $9,927,000, which they have as cash and investments. This is all unrestricted money, by the way, folks. We took out the meaning no strings on how it's used. We took out the 1.4 million and we came down to 8.5. Membership, 2021 membership, all Boy Scout numbers, cost per scout, their number, slightly increased, 2 years of income that they need to operate, or of expense money they need to operate, took it off of what they have on hand as of August 2020 and came up with 8.5 million. Now, there is a line here that says scorecard indicated credit estimate and says 0. What is that? Without getting into the weeds, I told you we are going through refinements of this analysis. At one time, we were looking at a credit score that might be a floor for what we asked for from the local council. We have approached it a little differently, but this 0 number is not going to our new analytic, if you will, our new approach to this is not going to materially change this number, which is why we rolled out this dashboard tonight. It's going to be about this number within a couple of $100,000. So that's how we concluded that they could afford in cash 8.5. John?
Yep.
Okay, what about their real estate? Well, they have a service center that's not owned. We didn't calculate, that's just identified as a service center, which is somewhere here on this map. And then they have different camps and so forth. They own these camps. They own 4 camps. And we've portrayed them with little icons. Okay, John, next. So what are we doing about the camps? Are we taking away all their camps? No, we're not taking away all their camps. What we've did was an analysis. So here, you got camps, service center, and other. These are internal ID numbers. Some of you who from the Coastal Georgia Local Council might recognize some of these names. We hear all the time, you can't use this property for anything except the Boy Scout camps, because the person who gave it to us or who sold it to us said, only a camp. We call those restrictions. We went through every property. We asked the local councils, show us the basis for your restrictions. We asked them for the info. This is based on information they gave us. So Black Creek, we concluded, had no enforceable restriction. Camp Talachi does have a restriction. And then these others are not applicable. We gave values to these camps. We gave a high value based on appraisals that we thought were relevant to this particular local council's property. And because appraisals often come in ranges, we did a high, we did a low, and then we thought based on where the camps were located, based on restrictions, because we're not going to try to sell something that's got a restriction. That's why to be contributed is 0 for Camp Telechi. And we looked at the other 2, the Isle of Wight property, we looked at the Waycross property, and we concluded that they could afford to contribute real estate of $873,000. Now, how did we pick those particular ones? Well, in this case, it had restrictions. They said to us in a negotiation, tell us which properties you think should be sold. So this analysis does that. That's where if you went back to the first page of the dashboard, you saw the cash and investments contribution of about 8.5 million. This is the contribution for the real estate. Okay, John, next.
That's what we're about. Hold on a second. We're about at the end here on this particular thing, but I'd like to go, can we go back to the first page, Deborah? So just one thing, so the 2.5 million there is what this council is proposing to pay under the plan. We believe that it has the ability to pay over 9 million as opposed to 2.5 million. And so some people might not think that's all that much money, but remember, there are 251 of these, and adding up the millions by 251 councils adds up to be a lot of money. Right now, they're paying 500 million in cash and property, and then a promissory note for 100 million that will be paid off under certain conditions over time. It's the TCC's view in working with BRG, which we have done a sort of top to bottom analysis of all the local councils of what the claims are against them and what their ability to pay. And when you add it all up, they could pay in the billions, well over $1 billion collectively. And this is what's important here, is that they've all grouped together because they could only survive together. And so one local council will say, hey, you know what? I got a bunch of bad claims against me. But you know what all the California councils are going to say? Well, we have a bunch of great claims against us and we need your help. They all need to band together if they want this to survive. And so you need to look at this as in the aggregate. And that's how they want to solve it for the aggregate. They want to solve it together. And so they all have to pitch in if they want to survive. And so we can go to the next council now.
Yeah, and we're going to do this one a little more quickly. But a lot of this is a little complicated. I get it. We've had the benefit of looking at this for almost a year, and you've had the benefit of looking at it for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So we can do a second one. This is frankly where I live, Western Los Angeles County. It didn't merge with anybody, so it still shows the same number. Same concept, survivor claims, valuation done the same way. This spread isn't as great as the other one, but still, we think West LA County can contribute $3.3 million for 252 claims. Again, pointing out, John was talking about this as an aggregate. Their contribution, $1,250,000.
And that's $1,250,000 for claims that are valued at the base amount at almost $100 million. And so I think it's really generous from the TCC's perspective that the TCC is saying, hey, only give 3.3. But again, we're looking at this on a collective basis. And so that all the councils are contributing. But look at that number. It's nearly $100 million in claims implicating this council. And so they only want to pay a little over $1 million for that. It's just, it's unconscionable.
We think they can pay almost 3 times as much.
Yeah.
And it's the same math, folks. It's, the same presentation. Asset summary, again, our valuation of the real estate. Look at that trend on membership. Look at the trend before COVID. Same, concept of the real estate's worth between $2 to $3 million. This is not their contribution, by the way. This is just the real estate they own. And again, the green, which is non-camp property, it's 0 because it's under $1 million. So the software defaulted. John, let's go to. Yes,
Jim, I was going to suggest that, this is the bottom line here. And as we finish these presentations, we call them dashboards. We're going to put them up on the TCCBSA.com website as and when they're done, and they'll be there for your review and you can look at them. And so, Jim, I was going to say, do we want to go through the next 9 pages of another one? Because
no, but why don't we just scroll through it for a moment. There may be one I want to just really point out. Let's just do.
Yeah.
Okay, that claim breakdown, go ahead. Membership could be like the other chart, frankly. Membership. Cash and investments per scout. This is the one I just wanted to go to, John, and then we can finish this off. Look at what's going on here. Take out the COVID year, folks. Take out the COVID year. Look at what's going on here in terms of how wealthy this council is. Look at the numbers. Look at cash and investments between 2016 to $436 per scout to pre-COVID $912. This council under the BSA deal is getting a great deal. And this council will not suffer. Its scouts will not suffer if it pays what we think is the rightful amount to come out of this council. So John, I probably beat this horse to death. So let's let it die and move on to the other issues that John and Doug want to talk about.
Thanks, Jim and John. We appreciate that. Doug, you have some thoughts on that?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, just a couple things. I've been looking at the questions with John, and I just picking up some things I want to mention. First, a number of people that might be a first-time viewer, just to let you know, John and I are survivors. We were appointed to the TCC by the Department of Justice. We're not paid for any of this, and us and the other 7 men this is a labor of love. It's a passion. It's probably one of the most important things we will do in our life after raising our families. So we're not a bunch of attorneys that have formed the group. We're survivors that are the Department of Justice put us together to represent you. The other thing is, a number of people asked me to remind everyone that this video and any other videos we do are on our YouTube channel. You can get there through our homepage for the TCC, tccbsa.com. You can subscribe on the YouTube channel. When these videos come out or posted, you can get them. And yeah, that's it. One last thing. These dashboards, I want to reiterate this 100 times. The dashboards are going to get rolled out over the days and weeks ahead, and they will be posted on our website. So a number of people have written, what about my council? What about my state? Those are going to get rolled out. So please keep checking back.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And just one thing on that, Doug, on that point, we're fighting with some of the local councils right now because they don't want us to show you the dashboards. One of them even said, well, we don't want people to see it because you're going to use this to instruct people to vote no on the plan. And you know what? That's right. We're trying to get you information so that you can make an informed decision about whether or not to accept or reject the plan.
And I'm just going to tell you guys, there's a lot of lies going on out there, and scare tactics. If you vote no, we're going to go into litigation for years, or you won't get any money. It's just not true. And if you think about where the abuse occurred, it occurred in the local councils. That's the real estate that it occurred on. And they're in for $600 million when they could pay 3 times that amount. And so when we tell you don't take short money, you don't take the first deal. These dashboards will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the local councils can do substantially better than they're doing now. And if you remember our 3-part plan, number 2 was getting more money. And this is how we're going to do it, instead of rolling over and taking the first deal that comes down the pike. So with that, we were going to talk a little bit about voting and ballots. And, I've seen a number of questions that have rolled through here. I mean, I think we got a couple thousand people on. We've already answered 236, well, no, more than that, almost 280 questions. There's still 75 open, and we've got 3 or 4 people answering. So keep it going. If we need to go long again tonight, like we did last week, we're perfectly willing to do that. A lot of questions, though, about ballots. They haven't gotten their ballot. How do they vote? What does this release? What do the things mean on the ballot? So, John, I think you were planning on taking us through that.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to not comment during this part of the video, because what I want to do is I want to take the snippet for how to vote in the ballot and put it up on our website, TCC BSA, by itself. So we should have that done in the next few days.
Yeah, in 1 second, before we put the sample ballot up on the screen, everybody needs to remember that there are a number of survivors out there who are represented by counsel, and their counsel is doing a master ballot. And so in that instance, you're never going to receive a ballot, but your counsel will communicate with you and give you the information and collect your vote, and you'll instruct your counsel how to vote. Your counsel will ask you the questions. Do you want to accept or reject? Do you want to take the $3,500 election? Do you want to opt out? And your counsel will take that information and put it on the master ballot and submit it along with the other survivors that counsel represents. And so what we're going to address next is, well, what do I do if I get my own ballot? And how do I fill it out? And where do I send it? So let's go ahead and put it up on the screen now. Great. So this ballot is up on the tccbsa.com website, and it has boxes around it that take you to different points in the ballot or portions of the ballot of alerting you. And it's sort of hard to see on the screen here, but in the top left-hand corner, there are two boxes that outline your ballot ID and your claim number. And anybody who receives a ballot, well, those will be pre-filled in by Omni. And so if you're asking Omni for a ballot or if you were mailed one, those numbers will already be there. And you will need those numbers if you're going to upload your ballot into Omni electronically. Otherwise, you just put it into an envelope and you send it to the address and we'll point that out. And so on each page that you must return in the mail, on the top right-hand corner, and you can't see it here because of the way that this is cut, it says you must return this page to Omni. And there are like 5 or 6 pages that say that. So let's go to the next page. There it is there. Thank you, Deborah. Here on the next page there, we just highlight there, the ballot needs to be actually received by Omni by December 14th at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So no postmarks. It needs to be in Omni's hands by that date. That's important. So let's go to the next page. Again, this is information about your rights to do the $3,500 election and what it means. And so that whole area there, boxed in blue, describes your rights and what you're going to get. Let's go to the next page. Let's go to the next page. On this page here, it tells you that your claim is against the Boy Scouts of America. Your claim is, for purposes of voting, is estimated at $1. And it provides the lead-in section to voting on the plan. And as you see in the top right-hand corner, this is a page you must return to Omni. Let's go to the next page. All right, the top box. This is probably one of the most important boxes. Do you accept the plan or do you reject the plan? As everybody knows, the TCC recommends that survivors vote to reject the plan. And so we recommend that people check that box. And you need to check one box and only one box, because if you check 2 boxes, the ballot will be invalid. The next box in blue is the $3,500 election. If you want to elect to get the $3,500 and walk away from everything else, then you check this box. If you do not want the $3,500 and you want to go through the TDB process, you leave it blank and you just turn to the next page. Again, this is a page that you need to return to Omni. Next page, please. This is more information about the releases. Let's go to the next page. Here we go. This is a page that you must return to Omni. This is the opt-out. Survivors could have claims against the Boy Scouts directors and officers and other parties that are outlined in the definition of released parties. And so most of you probably don't know if you have these claims. It doesn't affect your rights to opt out. And so if you do not know whether or not you have claims, then we recommend that you opt out. And again,
that you not opt out.
No. You want to opt out. You want to check the box here to opt out of the voluntary release if you don't know whether or not you have any other claims against that you would be giving up. And so we recommend to opt out. Next page, please. Again, this is more information about the releases. Next page. Again, more information. Next page. Again, this is more information about the releases. Next page. This is all information that's contained in the plan and disclosure statement, and it's just repeated here in the ballot because they want to make sure that you're reading it. Next page, please. Here we go. This is the part where you need to print your name, last 4 of your social, your birth date. You must sign this. And explain who you are, if you're an authorized agent, if you're not the survivor, your address, your email address, and date it. And again, this is essential. If it's not signed, then it won't be counted. The ballot will be invalid. So obviously, this page 2 must be returned. And it must be received in nominee's hands by December 14th at 4 p.m. Eastern time. All the following pages are pages of instructions that you could use and you can look to. And as John said, we're going to put this video up, or a piece of this video up, so that you could look at it if you have other questions. This ballot is already up on our website, so that you could walk through it and use it as a guide. That's all I had here.
Thank you, John. Any themes of questions that are popping up, Doug, or anybody that? So we got about,
there's been a lot of questions about the motivation of other people for different votes, and that's anytime somebody asks me what somebody else is thinking, I say you need to ask them. All I can do is reiterate that the TCC is trying to do the best thing it can for all survivors, because the 9 of us, that's been our charge for the beginning. So I think it's important that we just remind everybody that the only money we make out of this is, the same award system that everyone else has. And a few people asked, what happens if this plan something happens to this plan? Are you guys going to go away? And I can assure you, we're not going anywhere for a while.
Yeah, let me just summarize this for everybody, because it's really, really simple. The people are trying to scare you into thinking a no vote means it goes into years of litigation or there's no money. Do we have a plan? Yes, we have a plan. Will the judge allow us to file a disclosure statement on that plan? Probably not. She'll probably force us to go back to mediation and work within the constraints of the plan that's out there. So there's 3 things that we want. Each one of those 3 things, give or take, have 2 items.
Hey, John, I'm sorry I got to interrupt. We're just getting the note. You need to move a little bit closer to your microphone. People are having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, thanks. Is that better?
It is a little better. Yes.
Okay, so the first Doug talked about non-monetary items. We want the IV files published to an independent authority. They can be redacted and reviewed, but it needs to be independent. We want independent, educated expert oversight of youth protection. Now, you would think these 2 things would be a marketing idea for the Boy Scouts to improve their enrollment in scouting, because it's providing a safer place for youth. But they hadn't figured that out. The second thing is the money is too cheap. It's been a race to the bottom from the beginning. We think the folks on the other side have not gotten the money that's available. We've just shown you how the local councils can afford to put another $1 billion towards the table without affecting their operations. We know that the insurance companies have substantially more money to give. And so we think that number can go substantially higher than it is right now. And then the third thing, and really for all of you, this is actually probably one of the most important things, is the trust and how it operates. We want an independent trustee that's not a crony, and we want to improve the trust distribution procedures, which allow the trustee to evaluate everybody's claim and get the money out as soon as possible. So it's 6 bullets. The gap is not that big. And so we appreciate your support. I'm thinking that we're now over about 350 questions answered, and we're still got about 100 open. So I think what we'll do is, John, if you could look through there.
Yeah. Hey,
we'll stick around. I mean, it's almost 9 o'clock on the East Coast, and so we're going to wrap this thing up and tell you that the recording is going to be out on tccbsa.com. We really appreciate your support. I'm telling you guys, if you'll just trust us with this, we can get more. Yeah, John.
So I want to say something. I saw a couple of questions because people saw the dashboards and they saw how we were saying that the Western Los Angeles Council can probably contribute, more than 3 million, and the Coastal Georgia Council can contribute over 9 million compared to, and it's a huge difference compared to what they're offering under the plan. And so people were doing some math in the Q&A, and they were saying that, well, it looks like the councils could collectively contribute over 2 billion and 2.5 billion and stuff. I don't think that that number's right. I think it's probably closer to the 1.5 billion mark. Not all of them are going to be giving the same amount. Every council is different. Every council has different claims against it. Every council has different assets, and they're all valued differently. Some are restricted, some are unrestricted. And so again, you know, we have looked at each council, and the contribution for each one is different. Some are a lot, some are less, but in the end, it's more than double of what they're offering now.
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys know that the content of what we had prepared, we're finished. And so, you know, you're dismissed, but if you still have questions, our team's going to just dive into banging out answers and see how many of these we can get done for you.
Yeah, and John, I just got a really good reminder. It was posted online. As we know, the post office is having some challenging times recently. So if you are mailing anything, please, please, please don't wait until the last second. Get this off your desk and get it back to them.
Yep. Spend a little bit more money and do return receipt requested.
Hey, John Lucas, I do have a question for you. I've seen it come up a couple times and you may have answered it, so I apologize if I was looking away, but people have asked, can they just print a ballot off of our website and send it in? I know the answer, but do you want to just touch on it?
That's a great question. Well, you know, so no, you need to email Omni at bsaballotsomniagent.com, and that email address is on the cover page to our annotated ballot. And you need to ask Omni for a ballot, because Omni will give you a ballot that has a ballot ID and your claim number on it. And those two pieces of information are essential. You fill everything else out, but you need to get a ballot that has the ballot ID and the claim number, so that it can be tied to you in your vote. So that is a great question, Doug.
And John, I have heard through emails some of the town hall questions. My lawyer's not getting back to me. My lawyer's not getting back to me. I don't know if I haven't heard that except for maybe one person saying that Omni wasn't getting back to them. I think Omni has been. Can you confirm this? Has Omni been responsive to people when they have contacted them to get ballots?
I think the answer is generally yes. And if somebody's having some difficulties of trying to get a ballot, then email us at bsasurvivors@pscjlaw.com, and we will help get you a ballot. You know, we can't get it for you and deliver it to you, but we could connect you with the people at Omni to make sure it happens and you're getting responded to.
John, one of the things that I saw in some of the questions is I haven't heard from my lawyer. I haven't gotten my package yet, because the lawyers are supposed to convey, although we understand they're not sending ballots, convey the information. If I would just urge people to keep on documenting your demands for this. Those informational packages have been in council's hand for some time now. And if you're not getting it, document it, because at some point you might be asked, collect as a group, you know, survivors, did you have enough time to vote? And we want to be able to have a record, if need be, as to the adequacy of the opportunity you had to consider all of this information and respond to it with an informed vote.
And I, remember all the disclosure statement and the attachments to the disclosure statement and the plan and the attachments to the plan are all on the Omni website. You could also get them on the TCC website. And in the end, if you're not getting your ballot, just ask Omni for one and get one yourself. And if you have some questions about how to fill it out, we have the the ballot with notes on our website for your help. And if you need some further attention, please just email us and we will do what we can to try to guide you through the process. You know, the ballot can be a little bit overwhelming. It's 22 pages. There are a lot of words and bold and all caps and all these different sections. And it's a lot to digest. So.
So John, what else we got? You're surveying the questions. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Jim, a number of questions on timing. And I know we can't look into a crystal ball, but why don't you talk about the process? I mean, let's assume we have a count at the end of December. What might the judge order us to do before the hearing? How long might the hearing last? What happens if she puts us back into mediation? How long does it take to form a trust? When does money start going out of a trust? That kind of thing.
I'll answer it the best I can.
Okay.
So the voting deadline is December 14th. Within 10 to 12 days of the voting deadline, a report will be published for everyone to see from Omni as to the acceptances, the rejections, how many people chose the $3,500 option, if any ballots were disqualified because people didn't sign them, that sort of thing. It's called a voting report. The hearing on the disclosure statement, the hearing on the confirmation of the plan starts January 24th. If the plan is voted down, because we'll have about 3 weeks, maybe almost 4 weeks, to see how the voting went. If the plan doesn't have sufficient support, then there are going to be a lot of intensive negotiations to try to get people a better deal and to change the votes to yes votes. And if it is voted down, we will be in the center of that. There's going to be a lot of legal work going on, depositions going on of the insurance companies, of the debtor, of the just a lot of what we call discovery going on already, and up to sometime in probably early January. The parties will submit legal pleadings, arguing the facts and the law as to why the plan should be confirmed and why the plan shouldn't be confirmed. The judge will have all of that well in advance of the hearing. So there's one thing about Judge Silverstein, she reads everything that comes before her. She will be prepared. Will the hearing be live? We don't know. Right now, the Delaware bankruptcy courts are still doing everything remotely. Will things change? We're uncertain. If everyone attended who wanted to attend, we'd have to do it remotely, because literally on some of these calls with the lawyers, there are nearly 100 people, and squeezing them into a courtroom and giving survivors who want to attend a chance to come to Wilmington, Delaware and attend. I don't know how you do it other than remotely or some kind of overflow. How long will the hearing take? We don't know. Personally, and by the way, the days in bankruptcy court are not always consecutive. We don't know the judge's calendar. So it could be it starts the 24th, the next date's the 26th, 27th, then into February. We'll just have to see how the court's calendar works. But this is a matter of great importance to her, and I'm sure she'll give us every opportunity to give an effective and comprehensible presentation that's not interrupted a lot by intervening days. It could easily take a week. It could take more. But until we see the discovery responses and understand what people are really focused on in terms of the facts that they want to present to her, we won't know for sure. If she were to approve the plan, say on February 1st, she enters an order and the plan contemplates that another court, the U.S. District Court in Wilmington, not the bankruptcy court, but the district court, will have to countersign, in effect, her approval. Why? Lots of legal issues about her authority to do certain things versus a district court's authority. We don't know how long it would take the district court in Wilmington to do it. I hear from people who practice there that the courts there try very hard to move those kind of second affirmation orders along. By the way, there's no guarantee the district court would affirm it, but let's assume the district court's going to. Probably a month is what I've heard. So now we're in early March. There are appeal periods. The appeal period, I believe, is 2 weeks. So no one's putting in any money until we see what the appellate issues are.
That's not exactly right.
Is it 30 days?
No. The appeal is right, but Hartford agreed to put in like about 135 or 140 million dollars of its 785, even in the face of appeal. And for technical reasons, everybody's doing that because they're going to try to quash any appeals that take place by distributing the money and basically scrambling the egg, and you can't unscramble.
I'll put it this way: less than 20% of the money that's been promised would go in, and not even necessarily everyone who's contributing. So you're sometime now, what am I, January, February, you're about mid to late March before this thing could actually get funded. How much time would it take for the trustee to determine from his pot or her pot of money what can be distributed to survivors? It's really hard to tell. People who took the $3,500 election presumably would get their money fairly promptly. In my world, fairly promptly would be 60 days. That to me is fairly promptly. For the others, it could be quite a long time. It could be more than a year, because the claims have to be reviewed and the trustee has to make some estimates as to how much he or she is going to let out the door. Because if there aren't settlements with all the insurance companies and other parties potentially who might have to pay, he has to hold back money to do that. He has to hold back money to review the claims that didn't take the $3,500 option. So all those things are really unknown, but it could be easily a year before people who took less than who didn't take the 3,500 start to see money. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's sooner than that, but I don't want to create expectations that right now are really founded on a lot of guesswork. So that's my best estimate, John. Now, if there are appeals, that's a whole nother calendar, if you will. What happens to the BSA settlement trust if appeals are pending? As John Lucas pointed out, and I appreciate you correcting me, John, it's kind of on fumes because it's not getting the full payday from everyone who's made settlements. It's getting a fraction of the money if appeals are pending. So I'm sorry about the uncertainty of that answer, but it's an uncertain situation.
Hey, one of the things. No, go ahead, John.
I was just going to do a count. We're close to 500 questions answered. We still got 91, so we're not going to get through it. So I think we're going to try for another 10 or 15 minutes, and maybe.
Yeah. John. Well, I'm sorry, Doug. Go ahead, please.
Well, I was just going to say, I just want to tell everybody these questions are so important because they help to inform what we talk about every week. And one of the things we're seeing is people are still, there's uncertainty about the ballot and questions about the ballot. And after these town halls, we debrief and we talk about them. But we're going to continue each week to field what the issues or questions are with the ballots, and we're going to continue to address each week how we can kind of unpack that a little bit and make it even more simple. And we're talking about putting a video up and some other things. So please be patient with us. The one thing we're asking everyone is you have to vote. At the end of the day, these votes are going to be counted based upon the number of people that vote, not 82,500 people. So it's critically important. I'm speaking to every survivor out there. We've all been in powerless situations for a long time. And it's just so important now that regardless of what the hassle is and having to communicate with a lawyer or downloading things and putting them in the mail, this is our time to sort of step up. So I can't say that enough. We'll continue to try and figure out how to make this as easy to understand as possible, but we need everyone to vote.
In that vein, Doug, let me just, I see these questions come up. As Doug pointed out, the percentage needed to approve the plan is based on how many people vote. It is not based on 82,500. If one person voted and that person voted no, the plan is defeated. So obviously that's an extreme example, and it's not occurring, but I really want to reiterate, your vote really, really matters. As John pointed out when he reviewed the ballot, everyone for voting purposes is being treated equally. You get $1. That doesn't mean that's the value of your claim. That's how the votes are being counted. And so in order for the plan to succeed, with all of the bells and whistles for the local councils and the insurance companies and the chartered organizations, of the people voting, 75%, at least 75% must vote yes. If anything less than 75% vote yes, it's extremely unlikely that the court will approve the plan. Now, I said at least 75%. This is a soft target, folks. We know from experience that it's probably got to be 75%, but she might say it has to be 80% or 85%, or she might say 75%. So it's really important that you vote and that you get that in by the December date.
Okay, folks, it's about 9:15 Eastern Standard Time. We're still at about 80 questions and over 500 answered. So we're going to keep working on it behind the scenes and get it up as Q&A. We appreciate your attention. Man, a lot of you guys hung in there with us tonight. To reiterate, we're looking for non-monetary IV files exposed, independent review, more from the local councils, more from the insurance companies. And the last thing is the management and administration of the trust, which is really critical. So we think we can do better. We think we have a strategy to get that done, but it's going to take your support and you spreading that support around. So thanks very much for coming. Be safe, be well, enjoy the fall, and we'll be in touch. Take care. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, folks.